ahead and get started today. So let's see here. Okay. So some of the ways that this kind of plays into what we talk about, and with all of our positions, from whether it's job, working out, starting something new, wanting to create new programs or planning. Quitting is a big part of everybody's lives today, and whether it's you or whether it's people that are on your team right there next to you, or people on the other team, maybe that's where you notice it. But some of the things that when we look at a job, for instance, I have done many exit interviews for companies all over the country. A team member says that they're going to put in their notice, or maybe the team members are going to be let go, or maybe they just move away. I mean, either way, when an individual leaves a company, that's the perfect time to kind of get valuable information that can be used to help grow a business and overcome obstacles that may be there. Because sometimes people have an issue with communication and opening up. But when somebody knows that they're out and they're moving on one way or another, whether it's a mutual agreement or not, that is the best time to get this information. So I've done a lot of exit interviews, and some of the things that I've seen when a team member is leaving, meaning they're quitting on their own, and maybe it's because they're unhappy for whatever reason. I go through and ask a series of questions, and one of the questions I would ask is, what is the challenge that you're facing? And I would ask, what did your supervisor or manager or owner, company, what did they say when you shared this information with them? The number one response that I get is that they didn't say anything. Or sometimes they say, well, yeah, I said something, but they just didn't do anything about it. And I dig in a little bit further, and I'm like, okay, so how did you share it to them? What did they say? What was next? And I dig in a little bit further, and what we find out is sometimes people say things in passing or joking or whatever, but they don't really push the issue like, this is a challenge, we need to fix it, and stand the ground of doing so. So that's the number one thing that typically happens. Well, this makes it really tough on management today, because if you're in a leadership role, a management role, you got to know that the number one issue that we have in a company is communication, but it's lack of communication. It's people will not openly just come right out and say what the concern, problem, challenge is. And if they do say something, usually it's not with the intent of finding solutions. It's very rare to actually have a team member that will come up with a solution to a challenge and want to resolve it, and is willing to participate in helping find that solution in the win for the company. It's very rare. When it happens, definitely take it in and give that person recognition and everything for what they've done, because it is rare. So people don't openly communicate. Very tough on management today. But the thing that I've noticed is with team members, and I ask those questions, I dig in. I say, okay, so where did you work previously? How long did you work there for? What did you like about that place? What did you dislike about that place? What did your supervisor there say when you shared this information? It is the exact same thing that took place at the previous job versus this job, and what's going to take place in the next probably 10 jobs that they have. They'll be bouncing because they'll always have the same issues. See, the challenges that we get are typically the challenges that we create, just like objections, right? When we do the sales training, we talk about we're getting that objection because of us. Something we've done, something we said causes people to react the way that they do. So that's why the individuals had it at the last company, and they're going to continue to have it, is they're not willing to speak up and do something about it. And typically it's something they do that causes them to be in that situation. So that is a big challenge, but it is, ultimately it's, instead of fighting through, let's just quit instead. It happens. This also happens when we work out, we train, we're conditioning. Maybe it's that we're doing boxing, jiu-jitsu. Maybe it's we're running, doing a 5K, training, all that type of stuff. There's a lot of quitting involved in working out as well. We do the New Year's resolution, beginning of the year. We say, we're going to get healthy this year. We buy a set of weights. We start working out, and soon after, usually within the first 30 days, people will quit. But here's something that I noticed. So I started working out at this new place. So I was doing the whole elliptical thing for quite a while, and I was doing a couple miles a day, and that was fine, but it just ended up getting too easy. So I started doing kickboxing, and one of the things that I was really shocked about at this gym was that they're teaching people to quit. I mean, they are teaching people to quit. Like, if it gets too hard, go ahead and drop the weights, drop the bands, and just keep moving your arms. I'm like, this is a new philosophy. I've never heard this before. I mean, I've been on national championship teams, state championship teams. I mean, I was a state champion wrestler, national champion wrestler. My team, the entire team, we were state champions as a team. And not once did my coach ever say, if it gets too hard, just stop. Never did that ever happen. It was, if it gets hard, fight even harder, push even harder. Get through it and give yourself the 100% all the way till the whistle. That's what it was. And we would train in ways that, if it's a, 6-minute total match, we would work 100% for 7 minutes. So we would put everything in that we could have until the end. We didn't just stop and go through the motions. So it's just interesting how this happens, because I'm standing in there and we're doing curls or something like that. And so as we're doing curls, the person at the front will drop their weights. The coach drops their weights because it's too hard. And then instantly after that person drops their weights, I'll see 5 to 10 other people just drop theirs too. And just go through the motions. And I'm like, what the heck are they training here? It don't even make sense. Because to me, I get the whole point that we want to have good form. But, the way of training is to do your practicing at light weights, and that creates your form. You do a lot of reps. But when it gets hard and you're training hard, you're working out hard, you use your mental strength to get through it. Because to me, mental strength is way better than anything else that you could have. And I'm not just talking about working out here. I'm talking about everything. Your mental strength is what gets you through when times get tough. Instead of just quitting, backing down, walking away, you pull in everything that you have to get the result and the goal that you want. That's what I believe in. And I think that mental toughness that is created, because mental toughness is something that I don't think it's just a natural thing. I think it's just something you choose to do or you choose not to do. But when you choose to have it and you fight through when things get tough, that's how you become a champion. And the thing that I look at too, because it's so tempting, right? It is so tempting. You see all these other people quit and just drop the weights or leave a company. And he gets nervous. I mean, I know what it was like when I was working in a company that had high turnover. It makes everybody nervous. It makes everybody think, well, geez, maybe I should be leaving too. Or when you're working out and you see 10 people drop their weights, it's like, oh man, it's tough right now. Maybe I should drop my weights too. It'd be easier. And then it's like, I'm consciously thinking about this as it takes place. And I'm like, there's only 30 seconds left of doing biceps. And then we're going to move on to triceps. That's a whole nother muscle group. It's not going to be tired. It's just like, if you just fight through it and get it done, then you move on to the next thing. But you do it when it's time to. That's what mental strength is. So clients will give us objections too. So we have it in our positions. I don't care if we're a call center rep or we're a sales rep or a technician, administrator, it doesn't matter. Clients will give us objections. We want to sell a maintenance agreement, or we want to save a maintenance agreement, or we want to sell repairs, generate a lead, sell a system, doesn't matter. Clients will give objections. Now, we already know that clients give objections because they don't have all the answers, right? They have questions that have not been answered. That's why they object. objections sound like many things. Like, I got to think about it. I got to talk to my wife, make sure she's cool with this. Or, I can't afford this right now. Or, we're just kicking tires. Those are all objections. And they all have a root cause to it, because we have a lot of smoke screens we got to fight through, cut to get to the real stuff. But there's a difference. See, some people, when they get the objection, they quit, they walk away, pack up their bags, walk out of the home and say, okay, yeah, call me maybe. But I was joking around with an individual the other day, closing ratios like 80-some%, been doing very, very well. And one of the things that he said, and it's just funny that he said this, but he's like, I just stay till they buy. Now, it's not that simple, right? We can't just stay till they buy, like, hey, I'm not going to leave until you, because obviously they'd call the cops on you. But, it's funny that he said that, because I used to say that stuff too. It's like, I used to joke. Now, you get to take people's jokes any way that you want, positive or negative, right? And I've had team members that take this negatively, but what I used to say was, the only reason why that client bought is because they wanted me to leave. They knew I was not going to leave. And people will say, man, that guy's just, man, he pressures people. He just doesn't leave. And it's like, no, you don't get what I mean by this. You don't get what this other individual means by this. Man, I've heard so many champions say the exact same thing. And they don't literally mean I'm not going to leave somebody's house. What they mean is, I will sit there and I will ask questions and I will dig and dig and dig and dig until I find the right question to figure out what the true objection is. And the true understanding is that they and I need to be able to find a solution that is favorable for all of us. That's what that means. See, anybody could quit and walk away from this, and your closing ratio will be what average people have. Usually 50% or less. But if we stay there and we fight through it, and we dig in and we ask the questions and we get uncomfortable, because it's going to get uncomfortable until we figure out what the right questions are. See, the thing is if we put ourselves out there and we step outside of that comfort zone and we ask all the hard questions, eventually we start to have experience. We've already been in this situation once. Once we've been in that situation once, we know how to handle it again. And it's less uncomfortable until it just becomes a part of what we do. But that's how we get clients to buy, is to continually look for a favorable outcome for everybody. We seek to understand, we dig in, and we don't quit. See, some people quit before they start. I mean, how many times have you said, I really want to do this, whatever it is, but you haven't done it? How many of you have said that, or heard other people say it? They want to do something. They want to read a book about, maybe it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Maybe it's the Sales 101, Zig Ziglar. Maybe it's the Little Red Book of Selling by Jeffrey Gitomer. Maybe they want to pay off their debt and they want to go through a Dave Ramsey class. But you ask them, hey, I know you were talking about doing that Ramsey class. Have you done it yet? Oh, no, I haven't done it yet. How often does that come up in your life? Whether it's you, your spouse, your friends, your team members at work, how often does that show up? We don't even start. We quit before we ever start. And here's what happens. See, we make a good decision to do it. It is the right choice. We know it is. That's why we made that commitment to begin with. But we make this commitment, and then soon after, our mind starts talking. And whatever our mind is saying, that determines our outcome. Now, can you control your thoughts? Absolutely, you can. But whatever you let take place in there, if it's saying, yeah, you need to do this now, take action, pull the trigger, make it happen, well, you're going to do it. But if your self-talk says, man, yeah, but it's going to rain, and then, and we're worrying about all this stuff that we can't control, and we got all this work to do, and oh my gosh, I got to go to dance recital this weekend, so I can't possibly do this. Man, we could make so many excuses and talk ourselves out of success. I mean, that's what we ultimately don't we? I mean, if we're not succeeding at something, it's because we talked ourselves out of success. That's the only reason that happens. So think about that. How often does that happen? Because I bring up the dance recital because I'm on this this kick of these certain action items that I want to do that's way above and beyond my current goals that I have. And I'm like, man, we got dance recital Saturday. We got a Sunday too. And my first thought was, man, that's going to take up my whole weekend. My second thought was, okay, what can I do about this? So I woke up on a Saturday about 5:30 in the morning and I got to work. So I had plenty of time to put in before I had to go to the dance recital and enjoy my family time. But those are choices that we make every single day. I'm going to come back to this too, quitting before we start, because that is a very common theme. Napoleon Hill, there's a book called Think and Grow Rich. And as I was reading this book, I don't know when it was, it's been a few years ago probably, but as I'm reading this book, there was a section in there where the comment was made, some of the most successful people don't know when to quit. Meaning they're just not quitters at all. They're not quitters. What they do is they make their mind up, they make their decision up that they're going to hit a certain result, and they will do everything to make sure it happens. One of the stories in this book was, and again, I'm going to destroy this, so if you really do care about the real facts, go ahead and read the book. But there was a part in here that talked about these individuals that were either digging for gold or coal or oil. I'm pretty sure it was oil. I keep saying it was oil, but I don't know. Doesn't matter. The bottom line is these individuals got this land. They're drilling. They're looking for oil. They're going to strike it rich. They're going to make it happen. And all of a sudden, they're using up all these resources. You know, they got this map. Things were plotted out. They didn't change course. They just kept on going. But they kept on getting discouraged, more and more discouraged every day because they weren't able to find it. And eventually, the individual that had this, that owned all this, says, I can't do it anymore. I've used up my resources. I'm done. And his partner says, I'm going to buy this from you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep going. He's like, fine, good luck, man. And he takes this and he's like, okay. And here's what happened. His mental thought was, there's a reason why we chose to buy this area. There's a reason. We know all signs point to success here. So he went back to the beginning and said, this is why we did this. And he reminded himself of it. And then he said, okay, we haven't done it yet. This is what we've done. What should we try next? What should we do next to hit what we want? Makes a couple adjustments to the course that they were sailing, and bam, strikes it. Hundreds of millions of dollars back when that would be billions of dollars today. I mean, just a ridiculous amount because the individual didn't know when to quit. You have individuals that are champions. They hurt their arm, you know, and they get injured, but they still fight through to try to win it. I mean, I still remember back in sports, I broke my shoulder blade in 3 places in a wrestling match. I could have laid there and quit and been like, oh my gosh, it hurts so bad, I quit. But no. Just fought through it, made it happen, won the match. Ended up going to the hospital after that, but bottom line is that's all mental. It was all mental. It wasn't a physical thing at that point in time. It was mental that got me through it. It's mental that caused this individual to make millions of dollars and not give up. It's mental when we're at the gym and everybody else drops their weights, but we keep going. And we force out those next 5 reps. It's mental when the client gives an objection and we stay there even though it's uncomfortable and we ask more questions. Because we truly do care about helping them. We truly do care about helping our company. And we truly do care about helping ourselves. So Amy has a story here in Forbes magazine. And it's about the 5 powerful exercises that we can do to increase our mental strength. And I think it's important to do exercises, have processes in place to be prepared for this, right? Because the more that we're prepared for the situations that are going to come up, we know we're going to get objections. But what is a process that we use to get through it when it happens? What is that self-talk that we've conditioned ourselves to say when it happens? Because really, that's what preparation is, right? I mean, if we really want to achieve our goals and we really want to be prepared for something and achieve our success and control the way that we think, we've planned for it already. We know this is going to happen. When this happens, this is what I'm going to tell myself. That'll cause me to succeed. So one of the steps that she has in here is that you got to evaluate your core beliefs. See, our core beliefs that we have and that are about ourselves, all of these things come back to our past experiences. And some people are not aware of their core beliefs at all. But your core beliefs influence your thoughts, your behavior, your emotions, everything. And you got to go back and evaluate that. What are your beliefs? How many things do you have in your life that are just so black and white to you, where you're like, it's always this way, or it's never this way, or I can't, or I whatever? How many times does that show up? Because if you have it where we're always a certain way, I mean, to me, always and never is pretty powerful. This always happens to me. One of the exercises that I've done with people in the past is when somebody says always or never, all you got to do is ask them a question. Man, I always have to deal with this. Always? That's the question. Well, not always, but it happens a lot. A lot? Well, at least twice this week. Out of how many times? See, those questions that we ask can help other people start to change their core beliefs as well. Do you remember one of the processes we have is a results pyramid? See, one of her number one things that she has in here about having mental strength is a process that we already have through the results pyramid, which means that we have experiences. And when we have an experience, it causes a certain belief. Meaning, we had an experience. We got bit by a dog. And now we believe that dogs are mean and they bite. So what we do is it causes us to take certain actions, which means we stay away from dogs. We don't pet people's dogs, which means we have a result that is we don't have a dog. And we're not friends with people with dogs. This happens with everything. Same thing with we get an objection. A client has maybe a bunch of stuff in their yard. It's just messy. And we had an experience where they told us they didn't have any money or they were rejected credit-wise. So now we had that experience, so it makes us believe that anybody with a messy yard is going to get rejected credit-wise. So we're not even going to take our time as an action to help them design something because it's not worth our time. And that causes us to actually have a lower closing ratio because we don't invest the time into getting the results that we would really want to have. It happens. But you can change those things. You can change your experiences by putting yourself out there more. See, the second thing that she has in here is expend your mental energy wisely. See, a lot of people, what they do is they focus on the things they cannot control. They focus on negative problems that they can't solve. And all that energy is used. And there's nothing left over to be creative and find solutions. You know people like this, don't you? You know people that spend all their time talking about what they can't do, and there's nothing left over at the end to focus on the solutions to these challenges that are temporary. I mean, they're temporary if you believe they are. People worry about the weather. What are we going to do? We can't hit budget because it's going to rain. You know what? What can you control? I've had it with companies where they told me they can't hit their budget because it was too cold to do the maintenances and no demand calls were coming in. I said, what do you got going on for marketing right now? What can you change with your marketing? I said, okay, with maintenance, why can't you do the maintenance? Well, it's too cold. How cold is it? Well, it's like 50 degrees. You can't do maintenance when it's 50 degrees. You can't do cold weather charging. Do you know how? Maybe you need to do training on how to do cold weather charging. See, there's different things that we can control. There's different things that we can do. But focus on what you can do, and you will be able to have your mental strength and be able to hit the results that you want. Number 3, she has in here, replace negative thoughts with productive thoughts. See, if we spend all of our time talking about the negative stuff, thinking about it, can you really have a positive outcome? I mean, think about that for real. Just stop and think about it. If we're always thinking about failure and losing, not hitting goals, stress, whatever, what is the outcome going to be? You get what you focus on. You get what you think about. See, if you're aware of these things and you stop to really reflect on things and think about it, and you look at how did I react or respond in a certain situation, you can start to catch these negative thoughts before they spiral out of control and they influence your behavior. You got to focus on results that are realistic. And you remember from our sales training that we've done in the past, the sum of all of your thoughts equals your attitude. And attitude is almost everything. Man, if we can control our attitude and keep it positive and keep it strong, nothing can stop us. When you look at a new team member in a company when they first sign up, man, their attitude is usually very good. They're excited about what they have for opportunity. And that attitude gets them to do results that are just above and beyond what most people can do that have been in a company for 20 years. We measure two things as managers, as salespeople, call center reps: process and attitude. As long as we have a process to keep us consistent and we manage our attitude, we succeed. But again, the sum of all of your thoughts equals that attitude. If you're dumping negative stuff in, you're going to get negative results. If you're dumping positive stuff in, you're going to get positive results. Practice tolerating discomfort. Being mentally strong doesn't mean that we don't experience our emotions, but what we do is we make sure that our emotions don't control us. Some people say they wish they could be more outgoing. They wish they had more sales experience. But instead of wishing, because we talked about that in the last webinar, wishing in one hand and something in the other hand, which one's going to fill up first? I mean, that is so real. So we talk about the pendulum theory and how there's times that we're going to get uncomfortable. The clients will challenge us. They say things. We get to respond or we get to react. That's your choice. See, again, if we're not prepared, if we didn't plan for this, if we didn't practice for it, we're going to react and we're going to make a statement, and that's going to push the client even further away. Or what we could do is we could ask questions and respond to the situation. We could say, oh, well, where did you hear that? What is your understanding of how something like this would work? See, those are questions of response. They're responses to what somebody would say. That's how we pull people in. And when we ask a question, the mind has to naturally answer the question. So that gets people to be logical, pull them away from the emotion that could possibly control them. See, the benefit in knowing this information, it is about you, because ultimately if you can control you, then you can pretty much control your environment. But trying to control everybody else in your environment versus changing you, that's not as easy, right? Changing 100 people instead of changing one. If you change one person, you might be able to change 100 people, but you can't do it the other way around. We talked about role modeling as well. So instead of saying, I wish I was more outgoing, just be more outgoing. Behave that way. Instead of saying, I wish I could sell more, read a book from somebody that is selling more. Use a process that was created by somebody that is selling or did sell more than what you're currently doing. Do what you want. Anybody that's out there that has the abilities, whatever it is, if there's something that you admire about somebody and you wish you could be that, do the things they do. That's what's going to get you there. Number 5, reflect on your progress daily. A lot of people don't take the time to look at themselves, look at their results, look at why they're doing what they're doing. You know, so many times we put together these to-do lists, all these things we want to do, but we don't reflect to figure out why are we doing this? We don't take the time to reflect, are we really moving forward? Are we achieving our goal? And when we're not achieving our goal and it's smacking us right in the face because we actually opened up the DMR, we see that we're not achieving it. We know we're not there, but man, it says right here that on this next appointment, this is all we got to do to achieve our goal. And if that's a little too overwhelming, okay, what do we do on the next 2? What do we do on the next 3? That feature can be added to any KPI in your daily management report, any of them. It just defaults on the sales dollars per lead. You can do it for service too if you want. Helps you correct. You look at it, figure out why you're not there, figure out what it would take to be there, and do it. But this says you got to review these things regularly. Well, man, that to me, that strikes home with our Smart Sharp goals. If we look at Smart Sharp goals and what it means, go to the goal setting process in the online program. The P for Sharp stands for progress made. The R stands for review regularly. Man, you put the R and the P together, and this is step number 5 for how to have mental strength. Get clarity. Clarity is just, it's tough. I know what it's like. I've worked with so many coaches in my life, and they will ask me questions like, what do you want in life? What is your purpose? What is this? And all the time I was, man, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't have that clarity, man. There's just so many moving parts. I know I want this, but I know I want this and this and that, and but just take the time to just stop and just write it out. Get some clarity. Map it out, because your clarity is going to cause your success. The clarity is going to cause your momentum. But the only way to do this is to stop in your tracks right now. Stop. Think about what you want. Think about why you want it. Again, remember those to-do lists we have, all these tasks that we got to do? Man, we're really good at making lists. And some of us, we're really good at checking things off a list and still failing. Think about that. How many of you actually have a to-do list? Right now, how many of you have a to-do list? But how many of you are not achieving your goals? How many of you are checking things off that list and still not achieving your goals? The biggest reason that this would happen is because we didn't stop and think about what and why. Why do we have this even on our list? What is the result that this item on this list will cause? Because if we stop and think about it from that perspective, then we know that this item is on the list for a reason, instead of just doing it to do it because we think we need to. That stuff, that busy work, gets in our way. It causes us to be unclear, and it's a distraction a lot of times. So after we know what and why and what the result's going to be, we plan. We plan how, when, where we're going to be doing these things, and then we do it now. We don't do it for New Year's and make a resolution, because we know everybody fails at those anyway. We do it now because why? We just made the decision right now to do it. When you make a decision to do something, you do it now. That's how you make it happen. And then you got to practice all the time. If you're in pro sports, you got to practice all the time, because your practice determines your games, your results. Everybody's heard move it or lose it, or use it or lose it. It's the same thing. Move it or lose it. Get going, or you're not going to get it. Use it or lose it. You got to continue to use these things over and over again, or you're going to backtrack. You're going to go backwards. You learn the process right away, but you don't practice it all the time. So you start forgetting it. You start veering off course. I've done it. That's why I know how important it is. Because, man, when we're playing golf and we're all lined up, man, if you're off even by a quarter of a turn and you go back and swing at this thing and it's 15 feet out there, man, when it gets by the hole, it's feet away from the hole, because that's how far off a little quarter turn can take it. I was talking about solving a Rubik's Cube, and I always wanted to do it. I've done this where I'm just sitting around sometimes and I'm going through the Rubik's Cubes, solving it. And they're like, "You're not really going to solve that, are you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." "No, how do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I just chose to learn. I chose to learn how to do it." And then my wife's like, "That's cheating." Why the hell is that cheating? Why is it cheating that I learned how to succeed? I mean, ultimately, the goal is to solve it where all the colors are on one side, right? That's a goal. That's the end result we're looking for. Wouldn't it make sense to learn a process on how to get there? If I want to sell, $100 million in revenue as a sales rep, wouldn't it make sense to learn how to do that? If I want to be able to diagnose furnaces properly and be able to do repairs and solve our clients' challenges, wouldn't it make sense to learn the order of operation on how a furnace works? It's not cheating, is it? Well, here's the thing about move it or lose it or use it or lose it. So I went through and I learned this Rubik's Cube to the point that I was stage 4, unconscious competent, meaning I could be talking to somebody and just going through the process and I'd solve it. I'm not even thinking about it. So I got to that point, right? Because we know the 4 levels, right? The first one is, stage 1 is that we are unconscious incompetent. It means that we don't even know that we're doing bad or why we're not achieving our results. Then we get to the point that we become conscious incompetent. It means we're aware that we're not doing good, or we become aware of why we're not doing good. Well, then we get to stage number 3, which is conscious competent. It means we have to think about it. When you're solving the Rubik's Cube, you know all the steps that you have to do, and you got to focus on it. You got to think about it. What's that formula again? Which moves next? Or when you're going through diagnosing a furnace, it's like, okay, it starts here, then it goes here, then it goes here. You got to think about it. But then eventually you get to the point that you don't have to think about it anymore. You just bam, bam, bam. And you don't even have to look up the numbers. It's just like you got it. It's there. It's like riding a bike. So what I did, though, is I got to the point that I was number 4 on this Rubik's Cube. And then I said, okay, I'm not going to do the Rubik's Cube for, it was like 3 or 4 months. I don't even know. It might have been longer than that. So I'm like, I'm not even going to do it. Put it away. And I came back to it last week. And I went to solve the Rubik's Cube. And it felt like I knew what I was doing. Like the first couple steps I was able to do, and then bam, I hit a roadblock. Couldn't do it. Like, oh man, what's the next part? And I couldn't think of it for anything. I couldn't retrieve that information. And that all has to do with like memory. See, your mind eliminates useless information. Do you know what determines if it's useful or useless? If you're doing it or not. Your mind assumes, because I'm not doing the Rubik's Cube anymore, it assumed that it was useless information. And for some of you, you're like, it is useless. Come on, get the point right here, right? So you learn to become unconscious competent at the sales process or presenting memberships or whatever. You know the process so well, but you quit practicing it. And your mind assumes it's useless and it purges the information automatically. That's the difference between short and long-term memory. Your mind will determine that by your use. So I go in there and I start doing the Rubik's Cube again. And I had to look to see, okay, what is the formula here? How do I do this? And I did it a few times and got right back on track. But I was challenging it just to kind of see, because it's very interesting how the mind works and how to use these things. And I sent out a link to people the other day about how the mind works and how to create memories very quickly and how to sustain them. So I just think it's very important to practice all the time. Use it or lose it. Again, earlier I mentioned people quitting before they start. Happens all the time. So Will Smith was going live one day and he wanted to just share. So I'm going to play a video for you guys about, and this kind of is very relevant to what we've been discussing here over our last 6 months. So enjoy.
That's Kyle. I just want you to shoot me real quick because I wanted you to hear this too, because you're my nephew. So a dude screamed to me the other night, "Hey, Will, I want to be an actor, man. I want to be an actor just like you." Usually people say stuff to me like that. I'm like, "Yeah, man, you can do it." Give them an encouraging word. But I was just sitting here thinking, and it dawned on me, 99% of people that say stuff like that are not willing to do what it takes to make their dreams come true. The Marines have a saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And that's just real. At the center of bringing any dream into fruition is self-discipline. Something as simple as food and eating. It's not about your body as much as it is about your mind. It's getting command of your mind to be able to choose actions that are in your own best interest. Every day we are choosing shit that's not in our own best interest, right? So if the world is attacking you and the world wants to fight you and the world's trying to hold you down, so you're going to kick yourself in the balls? So you're going to stop yourself from getting what you dream. Self-discipline is the center of all material success. You cannot win the war against the world if you can't win the war against your own mind.
There's another video that pops up right after this that, Will goes into and talks about.
I would give you one piece of
advice.
Do everything you can.
Goes into just caring about yourself enough to make the right choices. We were talking about, pleasure versus pain, and, how so many people get sucked into the pleasure of, oh, man, I want that donut in the morning. I want that piece of pizza. And caring about yourself enough to make the right choice in that moment means that you can say, I'm not going to do that because I care about myself enough. And I know what I'm going to feel like if I do it. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get pulled into the pleasure side of things. So those are some things that, I just stumbled upon this. It was a video that popped up on Facebook a couple weeks ago. And I thought it really, really tied into some of the conversations that we've been having. And because ultimately the systems, the processes, it's all there. It's in the online program. But the only thing that's going to cause somebody to not succeed today, because we know about the difference between, resources and resourcefulness. We always say, the people that don't achieve something is because of the resources. But what is it about the resources? They're there. I mean, you can YouTube anything. You can look anything up. And there's a lot of different people out there that have a lot of different perspectives that might help it make it click for you, or what you might have to do is just filter through it. But in the end, make the right choice for yourself, care about yourself enough to know that you are in control of your results, your outcome. It's up to you. You choose or you choose not to. And again, I think that that's going to get rid of any kind of challenges, stress that you may have about any goal that you have. Because once you can just say, even if you're going to be a quitter, just say, I choose to quit. I choose not to put the effort in. Hey, at least now you don't have to stress about it, right? Or choose to succeed and say, I choose to go through this short-term pain because I want the long-term gain of what it's going to do for me, my family, my company, my clients, whatever it is for your goal, whatever your success is. You define success the way you want to. But nothing's preventing you but you. So control yourself, control your mind. Mental strength, that's what this is about. Use that mental strength to hit your goals. Have yourself a great day. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.